In the mid-1990s, the city of Baltimore found itself yearning for football again. Once home to the beloved Baltimore Colts, the city had lost its NFL identity in 1984 when the Colts moved to Indianapolis overnight, leaving behind heartbreak and an empty stadium. For years, fans in Baltimore carried that wound, still wearing their old blue and white jerseys, still chanting "Colts" in frustration when other teams came to play. They had the passion, the fan base, and the hunger for football, but what they didn't have was a team. That changed in 1996, when the National Football League expanded its landscape in a move that would reshape Baltimore's sports history forever. It all began when Art Modell, the owner of the Cleveland Browns, announced he would be relocating his franchise to Baltimore. The decision sparked outrage in Cleveland, but for Baltimore, it was a moment of rebirth. The agreement was complicated. The Browns' name, colors, and history would remain in Cleveland, while Modell's organization, staff, and players would move to Maryland as a new team. They would have a new identity, a new name, and a new chance to build something extraordinary. That new team became the Baltimore Ravens, named after Edgar Allan Poe's famous poem, a nod to the city's literary heritage and its dark, powerful symbolism. From the start, the Ravens were built on defense. Their first draft in 1996 set the tone for everything that would follow. That year, Baltimore selected two future Hall of Famers, offensive tackle Jonathan Ogden and linebacker Ray Lewis. Ogden became the foundation of the offensive line, a silent protector, while Lewis was the heart and soul of the team, a fiery leader with an unshakable drive to win. The combination was electric, even if the team's first few seasons were filled with growing pains. The Ravens struggled to find consistent success in their early years, finishing their debut season with a 4-12 record. But even then, the flashes of brilliance were there. Ray Lewis quickly established himself as one of the most dominant linebackers in the league, leading by example and rallying his teammates around a culture of accountability and excellence. The Ravens were tough, physical, and fearless, the kind of team that made opponents dread playing them. Head coach Ted Marcabrota, who had once coached the old Baltimore Colts, gave the city a sense of continuity and nostalgia. The fans returned in full force, filling Memorial Stadium with purple and black, proud to finally have a team to call their own again. By 1998, the Ravens moved into their new home, what is now known as M&T Bank Stadium, a gleaming modern fortress right next to Oriole Park. The energy around the franchise was growing. Even though the team hadn't yet reached playoff contention, the defense was forming an identity that would soon become legendary. In 1999, the Ravens made one of their most crucial decisions when they hired Brian Billick as head coach. Billick. After the triumph of Super Bowl 35, the city of Baltimore was on top of the world. The Ravens had achieved what no one thought possible, a championship just 5 years after being born. But in the NFL, success is fleeting. Once you reach the top, the hardest challenge is staying there. The Ravens soon learned that defending greatness required as much character as achieving it. The 2001 season began with hope and pressure in equal measure. The Ravens were defending champions, and the league had their number. Every opponent wanted to knock them down. Baltimore's defense remained dominant, still led by Ray Lewis and coordinated by Marvin Lewis, but the offense struggled to find rhythm after losing several key players. The season saw moments of brilliance but also cracks beginning to form in their championship armor. Even so, they reached the playoffs again, proving their championship wasn't a fluke. But in the divisional round, they met the Pittsburgh Steelers, their growing rival, and were beaten in a tough, physical game. The loss hurt, but it also fueled the fire that defined the Ravens' identity for the next decade: resilience. The following years tested that resilience to the limit. In 2002, the team entered a rebuilding phase. Salary cap issues forced the release of several veterans, including beloved defenders like Rod Woodson and Tony Siragusa. The Ravens were suddenly one of the youngest teams in the NFL, and the offense remained uncertain. That year, they missed the playoffs, but their defense continued to produce Pro Bowlers, and a new generation began to emerge. In 2002, Baltimore also drafted a safety who would change the course of the franchise, Ed Reed. Ed Reed was unlike any player the NFL had ever seen. Brilliant, instinctive, and fearless, he was a ball hawk who could read quarterbacks as if he were inside their minds. With Ray Lewis patrolling the middle and Reed defending the deep field, the Ravens built one of the most terrifying defensive duos in history. Reed wasn't just a safety, he was a game-changer who could turn any interception into a highlight reel return. Together, Lewis and Reed embodied the Ravens' soul, leadership, loyalty, and dominance. The mid-2000s were a time of transition, but they were also a time of steady growth. In 2003, under head coach Brian Billick, the Ravens drafted a young quarterback named Kyle Boller, hoping he would be the answer to their long-standing offensive struggles. Boller showed flashes of promise but never quite developed into a franchise quarterback. Still, the Ravens managed to build around their strengths. In 2003, running back Jamal Lewis delivered one of the greatest rushing seasons in NFL history, running for 2,066 yards, the second highest total ever at the time. He was unstoppable that year, breaking tackles, outrunning defenses, and carrying Baltimore to the playoffs once again. Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Terrell Suggs, drafted that same season, and Jamal Lewis made the Rav. The 2012 season began with a quiet fire burning inside the Baltimore Ravens. They had been so close the year before, within inches of the Super Bowl, and the pain of that missed opportunity still lingered. Every player remembered the dropped pass, the missed field goal, and the silence that followed. For Ray Lewis, entering what would become his final season, there was a sense of destiny. He had built his legacy on defense, leadership, and faith, and he knew that before he walked away, there was one last story left to tell. The Ravens came out strong in 2012, driven by the leadership of John Harbaugh and the steady hand of Joe Flacco. Their offense, once criticized as conservative, became explosive. Ray Rice was at his peak, a versatile running back capable of changing games with one play. Anshuan Bolden was the physical wide receiver every quarterback dreams of, and Torrey Smith added lightning speed and deep threat ability. The defense, though aging, still carried the same heart. Ed Reed was still dangerous, Terrell Suggs fought through injuries, and even though Ray Lewis missed games with a torn triceps, his presence remained the emotional backbone of the team. Throughout the season, the Ravens showed both greatness and vulnerability. There were high-scoring wins, heartbreaking losses, and a late-season slump that made fans nervous. But when the playoffs arrived, something changed. The team found another gear, another level of belief. And as if written by fate, the first game of the postseason brought back an old enemy, the Denver Broncos, led by Peyton Manning. The 2012 AFC divisional playoff game in Denver would go down as one of the most unforgettable in NFL history. The Ravens were heavy underdogs. The Broncos had home field advantage and were one of the best teams in football that year. The thin air, the freezing temperatures, and the pressure all stacked against Baltimore. Yet, the Ravens fought relentlessly. Joe Flacco played with poise, hitting Anshuan Bolden and Torrey Smith for crucial scores. But with less than a minute left, the Ravens trailed. Then came the miracle. Facing 3 RD and 3 with time running out, Flacco launched a deep pass down the right sideline, a desperate heave that seemed to hang in the cold Denver air forever. Torrey Smith streaked past his defender, but it was Jacoby Jones who made the play. Jones sprinted under the ball, caught it perfectly in stride, and ran untouched into the end zone. The world stopped for a second. The play became instantly immortalized as the mile-high miracle. The Ravens tied the game and later won in double overtime on a Justin Tucker field goal. The emotional high from that game carried the Ravens to the AFC Championship, a rematch with Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, the very team that had crushed their dreams the year before. This time, Baltimore refused to be denied. The Ravens' defense suffocated Brady in the second half, while Flacco delivered a near-perfect performance.